where there are still tons of questions left around the Chicago Bulls and their future and which players are going to be part of those futures. Two players are clearly standing out right now as two players that are trying to show that they are part of that Bulls future. That's Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey. We're going to talk a little bit about them and why Dalen, Terry, Julian, Phillips, and Zach Collins, for that matter, have a unique opportunity to really try to carve out a role for themselves here for the remaining season for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And yesterday's episode, after the game, I talked a lot about Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey had another great game. When you look at the month of February so far, Josh Giddey is averaging 19.1 points, 7.1 rebounds, 5 assists, and he's converting on 48% of his three-pointers, taking 5.5 of them per game. Now, I'm not expecting those margins to stay the same. But one thing, and this is what everybody, and don't worry about it, on the last voicemail of the day, I'm cooking 8 lives again, so y'all make sure y'all stay in tune for that one. All in fun, though. That's my brother, all in fun. But Giddey's picked up his uptick, and I've said it before I said it on yesterday's episode. Josh Giddey has been the Bulls' best player since the Zach LaVine trade and their most consistent player. Now, does that maintain? There's still, a handful of games left for other players to step up. Hopefully, Coby gets into that conversation. That's what we want to as well. But I think when you look at the play of Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis over this month so far, it's been really promising. 8 games so far in the month of February for Matas, 13.6 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks per game. And even Matas Buzelis has his haters, which is weird, right? You got Winton, who's hating on Matas Buzelis, saying, well, I just want to see us win with Matas before we can say he's in a team that's clearly being bad, right? And this is what I don't understand about a lot of Bulls fans, right, is that it's always something negative, right? We know that we're in a place of evaluation. If you can only evaluate a player if they're getting wins when the team sucks, I don't know what to tell you about the game of basketball and how you view it and evaluate it. That's not for Winton. That's for other people, right? But he's playing really well. You look at him, he didn't average more than 7 points in any month prior. Now, with those, it's not like those are the most amazing averages, but I think you have to contextualize that as well. We are still not running any plays for Matas Buzelis. There's not a single play being ran for Matas Buzelis when he's out there on the court. So especially if you're going to talk about, well, are we winning with him or whatever else, like he's not even still a factor into the offensive game plan. What Matas Buzelis out there is doing based off activity, based off energy, based off going after rebounds, just based off that. And, of course, having point guards that get him the ball, but we don't make no mistake about it. We don't run any backdoor actions for Matas Buzelis. We don't try to get him any cuts to the rim. We don't run any lob opportunities for him to take advantage of anything. We don't even run any isolation plays for him to use his scoring or any pick and pop plays to take advantage of the shooting he's doing. I could go all day long about how Billy Donovan isn't running a structured development for Matas Buzelis yet, and that may be the plan, right? The plan for the rest of the season may just very well be, hey, let's see what the kid can do based off his energy alone without us really having him as part of the game plan, and we'll factor him in next year. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. That's not how I would go about it as a head coach, but that could be what Billy Donovan and the staff is looking at it for, and they've basically slotted Matas into the role of Patrick Williams, right? And to see, all right, how much more or less or productive is he in a similar role? And for what it's worth, scoring-wise, he's a lot more productive than Patrick Williams in that. I would even say with the block shots, and you add that into it, the rebounding is kind of about the same. I think the rebound is going to come along, right? But he's still kind of stuck sitting in the corner waiting for the ball sometimes. And his defense, the defense is a work in progress. He definitely has to work on that if he's going to want to be a consistently productive two-way player in the NBA. But Josh Giddey, you can't say that. Josh Giddey's even been good defensively, right? Josh Giddey for the month of February so far is averaging a defensive rating of 105. Now, that's not great. It's not in the elite territory, but keep in mind, league average defensive rating is 110. The lower number is the better number. Josh Giddey is being, so far in the month of February, a plus defender. and this goes to some of my criticisms for Josh Giddey. He can be a solid defender. He has the makeup to be a solid defender. He just has to want it. And hopefully Josh Giddey starts doing that a little bit more, and he understands that, right? And we'll continue to monitor that and see what happens with that over the course of the rest of the season. That's what this is, right? This thing is to see what he can be for the rest of his career. Like, and he's gotten his defensive rating to a respectable level so far this season, right? So, we'll see what is going to happen with Josh Giddey, but yeah, there's just those there are opportunities for Josh Giddey, and he's taking the most advantage of it. Scoring wise, he's doing it. His creativity is doing it really good as well. We've seen now more sub 110 games for Josh Giddey defensive rating this season for the Chicago Bulls than the last season and a half he had with the OKC Thunder. So he is improving as a defender. Is it great? No, right? Like, is it consistently great? No, but he's getting there, right? Even when you go so far as the New York Knicks game, he had a 99 defensive rating there. Josh Giddey was locked in defensively. So as these two players, Matas and Josh Giddey, are continuing to try to show, all right, we are players that you can build with, they're using the most of this opportunity that's now here with the void left by Josh Giddey, by Zach LaVine's trade to really step up. And so, yeah, we're going to see how much longer that this rides out, right? But again, objectively, from the standpoint of basketball, right? And that's how I like to have these conversations, is objectively from the game of basketball, meaning let's take the name, let's put it to the side, and let's look at what the results are that player is getting. It's hard to knock Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis have been the most that have stood out. They've been the players that have stood out the most since the Zach LaVine trade. Coby's been up and down. He's had his moments. He's been up and down. Hopefully the second half of last game was much better, right? So hopefully that's going to be something he can build off on as well. Vooch has been checked out. I mean, Vooch is Vooch at this point. Like I said before, I can't blame him. Vooch is kind of checked out. He is who he is at this point, right? But there are three other players that I also want to talk about in this, right, that have a unique opportunity here. One, Julian Phillips. Julian Phillips, with Patrick Williams out, is stepping into those minutes, and last night he made the most of it. One of the reasons why Matas Buzelis sat for an extended period of time, about halfway through the third quarter until a third of the way into the fourth quarter, was because Julian Phillips and the defense he played on Kevin Durant were excellent, right? And that's where Julian really needs to hang his hat first, is his versatility defensively. I do think that Julian has a high ceiling offensively as well that we just don't use, again, because most people who play power forward under Billy Donovan on the Chicago Bulls just stand in the corner and don't get things ran for them. But I think that Julian, if he can make a name for himself defensively over this period of time, these 2 weeks when Patrick Williams is coming back, I think that you have to force a question from Billy Donovan on, do you play Julian Phillips? Like, Patrick Williams has been a starter the majority of his NBA career, right? You kind of know who Patrick Williams is. Julian Phillips has not played a lot of minutes over the course of his NBA career. He started off the season playing him up and down performances. That's going to happen when it's your first time getting serious minutes, right? But Julian last night against one of the better scorers in the NBA showed me something that it's like, hey, let's see what we can. And not only on Kevin Durant, he got switched on Devin Booker at times, right? And we don't have a lot of switchable defenders. We got Ayo, who's also out. We got Ayo, who's out. We got Lonzo as well, who's a switchable defender. Julian and Dalen, these are two guys that really you look at as trying to be switchable defenders in the NBA, and that's really where the league is going. So I would love to see Julian Phillips really take the most of this opportunity that he has and make something of it. Same with Dalen. With Ayo out, Dalen has an opportunity here. Now, he only played 4 minutes yesterday. Kevin Huerter actually was giving us some positive minutes in the game yesterday, so I can kind of understand that. Dalen Terry has an opportunity here as well. I think Ayo has a stinger. He could very well be back by Monday, but if he is out for an extended period of time or something, I would love to see Dalen get back some opportunities. And he had a play yesterday where on both sides of the ball where he played really well. I'm surprised we didn't see him kind of later in the game on some more opportunities, but that's Billy Donovan. We got a voicemail on that. And then Zach Collins. Not to say that Zach Collins needs to be part of the future for the Bulls, because he does not, right? But I think that if you're looking for somebody who's a serviceable third big, which we've never really had, right? Let's be clear. We've never had a serviceable third big on the Chicago Bulls roster since Billy Donovan has come here. He's under contract for next year. So I think at 27 years old, in the minutes that he gave yesterday, he's shown maybe some signs of being a productive third big for you. And I think that that's something that he could carve out a little bit of a role for himself next season if that's a potentially, especially while Jalen Smith is out. So those three players have a unique opportunity. Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, Zach Collins have an opportunity to really step up and show something while those other three players are out. And I would even say this, like Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, these guys have opportunities as well. They're going to get looks. It's not that they're just not going to get looks and opportunities. They will as well. And we'll see what the future holds for these guys, man. But overall, this is an evaluation period. That's what the rest of the season is. And like I said, after yesterday's game, you're going to see more games like that than not. Games where the Bulls play competitively for a large portion of the game, but still don't have enough to really pull out the victory. And, that is what it is when it comes down to it. But you guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below as well. Let's hope that Coby starts. I love to talk more positively about Coby White as well. So I am hopeful that Coby White starts waking up here sooner rather than later as well. But it is Sunday. That means it is mailbag day. Let's get into these voicemails, man. This one's from Vaughn.
What's up, Hayes? This is Vaughn. So I just want to start by saying I'm going to stop trolling with that LaMelo Ball shit. Because on some real shit, Josh Giddey's been balling, and I got to show respect to Brody. So props to him. But the main reason I'm calling is because the problem Billy Donovan seems to have with prioritizing the development of young players, even at the cost of a little winning. Now, I'm not saying that we should take, I would never advocate for something like that, but he's acting like playing someone like Dalen Terry over Kevin Huerter is really going to make or break something. If anything, we've gone way too long seeing whether or not our number 17th pick is good or not, and I'm frustrated by it. Dalen looks like he works hard and he plays hard with heart, and Billy seems to have this thing where he punishes players for whatever reason. Now, I'm not at practices, so I don't know what's really happening behind closed doors, but to not find minutes for Dalen instead of anybody named Huerter, THT, or Javon is just stupid. I assume one of Julian Phillips or Dalen Terry wouldn't play as much, but now that Zach is gone and Pat is injured, I need to see both of them to close out this season. Overall, I'm frustrated by the way we prioritize Dalen's development, and I know everyone is focused on Matas' development, rightfully so, as am I, but Billy needs a fucking reality check ASAP, bro. He needs to see the bigger picture. In my opinion, Dalen should be able to get 15 to 18 minutes off that bench consistently right now. Another thing with Billy is his rotations don't seem to make sense. I mean, split Giddy and Lonzo up. Not because they don't play good together, but the structure of the team will just look better to me. I mean, it's too much swapping of roles lately. The rotation seems simple to me, all right? You start Giddy, Coby, Io, Matas, and Vooch. Okay? You let your bench, in order, be Lonzo when healthy or Tyus Jones when he's not. And then Patrick Williams when he's healthy or Julian Phillips for now. And then you have Dalen and Jalen Smith. That's a 9-man rotation right there, prioritizing the youth. I don't care about seeing Huerter, THT, Javon, or Collins at all. Like, that shit pisses me off. So let me know what you think. It's really frightening because it seems so simple, bro. It really seems so simple. But let me know what you think. All right, man. Peace, dog.
Prioritizing the development of the young players is a great way to word it, and that's not something that Billy Donovan does. He plays young guys, but it's more like all right, bet, go out there and give me some minutes and see what you got. I'll bet you made a mistake, sit down next to me. And I don't think he's coaching them up to say, all right, bet, this is why I'm sitting you, and this is what I need you to do when you go back in. You're getting back in, but this is what I need you to do when you go back in. And that's always been my problem with Billy Donovan as a developmental coach, right? And that's why I said in yesterday's episode, he is not the coach to me that you want to have there if your focus for the next few years is development. That's my personal opinion. Maybe he can prove me wrong. I know he's probably still going to be here next year. There's a 99% chance of that happening. But, you got to raise those questions. Playing Huerter over Dalen, I can understand it with the way Huerter played yesterday, right? Huerter was just a much more positive player than what Dalen has been in most games, in yesterday's game specifically, but I do want to see Dalen get those opportunities because I think you want to know and try to eliminate the questions on what you have or don't have with Dalen. He just hasn't played a lot in his NBA time. Now, some people make the legitimate conversations and say, well, Hayes, maybe he's just not showing enough in practice to play. And there is a chance of that, right? I'm not gonna act like that's couldn't be true. It could very well be true. But we never really know for sure as long as Billy Donovan's the guy guiding that, at least in my opinion. And as far as Billy Donovan's rotations, listen, bro, you've been listening to me for years now. We've had conversations about this. Billy Donovan's rotations always are going to be one of those things you look back on and be like, why'd you pull this guy there and then this didn't pull this guy when he was like, it's always that thing with Billy Donovan. And I'm sure that a lot of coaches can be said that about that as well. But Billy Donovan he leaves a lot to be desired, especially, like I said, when you're looking at development, kind of shifting to that focus. But hey, that's my opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from CP.
What's going on, Hayes? It's CP. And I want to say this, right? So I have no issue with most of the players, like Josh Giddey, Coby White, Io, Matas, even Vooch for that matter. I have no issue with any of the current starting five, even Lonzo. My issue, at least for right now, isn't the players. It's mostly the front office and Billy. For the simple fact, and I was kind of thinking about it, Billy and the front office kind of have that same like thought process of I have a system and the players need to play in that system instead of building the system around the players. Like we know Giddy and Lonzo are pass first point guards, right? Lonzo is a combo guard that can play the one or he can play any position, but if you wanted to put him at the two, it's fine. Giddy can only probably play the one, in my opinion, just because he's a pass first point guard. He needs the ball in his hands. So the two guard, for example, is the person that you're looking for to score. And then 3, 4, and 5, mostly defense and mostly, just getting open shots or whatever, in that system. My problem with that is we saw what Coby did last year next to Io. My problem is instead of having Coby, Io, and Zach as the starting 1, 2, and 3, you switch it up because you fell in love with that idea of that Lonzo team where we had Lonzo, Zach, and DeMar. And my biggest issue is the fact that team died. Like, after Lonzo went down, the team died, literally. So it's kind of ridiculous to try to run it back with different players in the same system. It's like, yeah, and it's sort of different, but it's still the same because Giddey isn't that good of a three-point shooter. Coby neither one of those two play defense the greatest. And if you throw Io in there, yeah, that's one defender, but it's one defender out of 4. So it makes absolutely no sense why the front office would even do that when they're watching the team just as much as us. And it's really fucking frustrating because it's like, you see this, you see them, and you see them on a daily basis. You know how they play. You probably watched all 82 games just as much as we did, as much as we have. So if you see that we struggle with defense, if you see that all the struggles that we have, why would you bring in Giddey? I like Giddey.
Not building a system around players is the perfect way to word that, my brother, right? It's not about, like, he doesn't build a system based off his players, but I do got to disagree with you. I don't think starting Giddey is as much about trying to recreate what you had in Zoe, because he's not the shooter, he's not the defender, and that's part of what made Zoe so good as a point guard. Because keep in mind, Zoe wasn't running the half-court offense before he went down with the Bulls. DeMar was running the half-court offense. So I don't think it was as much about that as it was about trying to figure out what you have in a 22-year-old point guard that his best attribute is creating for others. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I get it. I was on the same point of we knew what we had in Coby and Io starting together. Why not go based off that? But when you trade for a player that's 22 years old and you have to figure something out by the end of the season, or if you're going to extend him or not, I think that it was just about seeing what you can do with that. And keep in mind, they did say that they wanted to see what Coby White can do more as an off-ball scorer. So I think that part played into it as well. Hasn't worked out the best. We'll see what the future, like I said, we've seen some flashes that the Coby and Giddey backcourt can work a little bit, but I don't think they've been enough flashes for me to be willing to double down on it. But this is AK's Bulls, and things you never know is what I could say. So, and I do think that if you have a coach that can really build, I like a different coach can make the Giddey Coby pairing work a little bit better, right? Keep in mind, and again, I'm not comparing they're not the same caliber of players. But you remember when Dwayne Wade and LeBron first started playing together, that there was clearly they didn't know how to do it. And then they did the basically your turn, my turn by quarter thing. And then by the second year, that team figured it out. I think if you look at Giddey and Coby playing together, it's about making sure that both player has opportunities to where they can be ball dominant. And that may be what's staggering them, having one player play more with the bench unit, even though if they both start. But we don't really see that creativity from Billy Donovan. And that's part of the issue here, right? When you have a roster that doesn't necessarily fit the most seamless together with play style, you got to get creative. Billy Donovan's not a creative coach. and then we end up falling by the wayside there. At least that's my opinion. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? It's Shay. Look, man, I know a lot of people gonna have their thoughts on Josh Giddey, and I'm one of the people where I believe that, hey, I don't think we should resign Josh Giddey. Here's why. Now, I'm not gonna say that he trash or nothing, but I feel like when you've already read into a problem with DeMar DeRozan and how the team was built and not built for him, and then you gotta play it a certain way when you have a certain player like DeMar DeRozan, and now you run into the same problem that you're having with Josh Giddey, and a little bit worse. You know what I'm saying? Josh Giddey is not a consistent scorer, nor is he a consistent defender. Now, he's shown some improvement on the three-point shooting, and then on top of that, he showed that he will play defense here and there, but for the most part, I feel like when you have to reconstruct a team around a certain player, I mean, you're going to lose more times than not, especially when you have an incompetent front office like we have. And I feel like, you know, Io and Coby have already proven that they can play together and they can play with other people such as other players like Vooch, maybe DeMar. And, I mean, I can't say too much for Coby, but Io has proven that he can play with anybody and he can play either guard spot. And I feel like Coby has proven he can play either guard spot, but a player has to also play off him really well and doesn't necessarily get in his way of being the ball handler that he is. You know what I mean? I feel like, and when you have to reconstruct a roster around a certain player, you basically ran into the same problems that you ran into with DeMar DeRozan. Now, don't get me wrong, Josh Giddey is a good player, but in terms of just fit, I don't think he fits with this iteration of this team, and I don't trust AK to do what he needs to do to accommodate him as well. And plus, I don't think it was Big Dave, but I did hear the other guy, along with Will Perdue, say this: let's let the league determine Josh Giddey's worth, and let's not try to give him a contract that we think he deserves based off of us having fear of losing him. Let the league let the NBA dictate how much he is worth before we give him 30 mil or 40 mil or hell, even 20 mil. That's just what I think. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
I think comparing Josh Giddey to DeMar isn't a really good comparison. Because Josh Giddey fits in a more up-tempo system. Josh Giddey is an actual point guard, so you want him to be ball dominant. Josh Giddey's also a better creator as far as passing. DeMar's a good passer, make no mistake about it, but he's not the creator that Josh Giddey is. So I don't really think while they're both on-ball dominant players that don't really shoot the three the best, and DeMar is a better scorer, whereas Giddey is a better facilitator, I don't really think the comparison between those two is good, right? Giddey can thrive in an up-tempo offense where everybody's running. He does need mobile bigs. He does need some better defense around him, things like that. But I do agree with you that the market should set the value for Josh Giddey, right? Unless the Bulls and him strike on a value without needing that. But I do think a world in which, it's like, all right, Giddey, just so you don't think we're undercutting you, let's go out there and find a deal, right? Go out there and meet with some other teams, and maybe you'll see that what we're offering isn't off base of what the value that the league has for you. But maybe Josh Giddey and his management have a better, more level head about that, right? They knew they weren't going to be an extension reach coming into this. Josh Giddey said as much. And let's see what they go to the negotiating table with this offseason. So, we'll see what happens there. But I will say this: Josh Giddey's is coming back, and people need to just realize that. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald, and I'm calling back to respond to the topic of Coby White and what his future looks like on this team. And when I look at Coby White, I see a guy who can, for a month straight, average like 23 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. It just looked like an all-around all-star. And last year, when he was at the point, even when there was times when his shot wasn't going in, you had games where he gave you effort defensively. He could still facilitate. He could do the little things that kept him on the floor. But then there was also times where when his shot wasn't falling, that he was just a straight up liability. I mean, he was missing reads. He was giving lackadaisical efforts on defense to the point where he just went lost. And he's had games, and it wouldn't be for like 1 or 2 games. It'll be for weeks. He was like that, where his offense, where his offensive struggles impacted his whole game. And he said that because they moved him to the shooting guard spot that, it affected him some, and I agree. But that doesn't change the fact that there are times where he smoked layups. There are times where he takes poor shots, where he has poor shot selected. There are times where he gets lost on defense, where he doesn't provide help on defense. And like I said, he'll go a month where he's looking like an all-star and a month where he's almost unplayable at times. And that type of inconsistency is a real problem. Now, what can you do with him? Like, he's only making $13 million a year. I'd probably try to trade him. But at this point, earlier this year, we were talking about maybe get a first for him. But now it's probably more like 2 seconds in this year's draft. But either way, I think there's more upside to Ayo than Coby White right now. He just needs to be on a different team to get consistent minutes and a consistent system. But what's your opinion?
Coby is flawed, right? And I think that we knew that. Coming into the season, consistency was the name of the game for Coby White, and he hasn't been a consistent player, right? Now, I went into looking at some of the things that you pointed out there as far as him, like, smoking layups. Like, there's some of that, not as much as you, like, lay it on, right? He's almost a 60% at the rim player, which is really good. The 58.8%, that's right around where you want a guard to be at the rim, so that's really good. The floater he hits at 39%. I'd like to see that go up. So, it is what it is there. But I think that Coby's just a player that until he's more consistent, it's difficult to really kind of build anything around him. You can make him part of what you're building, build with him, but it's hard to build anything around him because he's just so wildly inconsistent, right? We can have the month of him being hot. We can have the 5-6 games in a row where he can't hit much, right? Like, those are the things. And whereas last year, I would go so far as to say when Coby wasn't scoring well, he was distributing well. He did have good weak side defense. He did have those things. We haven't really seen as much of that this season either, right? So it's a conundrum going into there with Coby. I get what you're saying, trade him, but I think right now, I don't think you're going to have great value for Coby. Not where you would have had coming off of last season, in my opinion. And that comes down to the role changing, him being forced to play something that's outside of his natural strengths. And I don't know if I trust the front office to find that value either. It's going to be interesting to watch. And I think a lot comes down to it as well as what position do they draft in the draft? Because I think that can determine the future there as well. So great voicemail there, Reggie, and we'll see what the future holds for Coby. Now let's get into this last one, man. This one's from 8 Lives. About to cook.
Hey, this your boy Egg Live. I'm calling back to double down on that Giddy shit. Bro, no. Giddy, I don't care what Giddy do right now. He already showed me when they used to be Zach and Patrick and Giddy on the floor, it was like playing 3 against 5, bro. Cannot build no offense around Giddy. You didn't say that. You said that's what he's trying to convince other teams or convince these teams or convince you for the contract. If you can't run the offense around Giddy, you can't. First of all, even when you watching the Knicks game, you were seeing as soon as was building the pick and roll, he didn't want to take Bronson at all. Giddy is a liability on the court. Like I said, he's gonna make plays. He's gonna score points, especially with a tanking Bulls team who's out here fucking playing Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter. Please, nobody tell me about nothing nobody's doing besides Montage on this team when we playing Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, and Trey Jones. They're actually getting playing time over Dalen and Phillips. So I already know that we're tanking. So we're not gonna tank, and we're gonna give credit to motherfuckers who playing on a garbage ass team with garbage players. Giddy is playing for his contract. So I would never see nothing Giddy do and be like, oh, we should keep Giddy now. Like, no, he already showed me when we was full strength. Giddy don't belong with this team. Yes, he can play on any NBA team that they want, but they better be a way better team than what the Bulls is because that shit is just loose stats. Miss me with the Giddy stuff. Y'all can have him. Yes, he's great, whatever. But we don't want him back on the Bulls team next year, bro. Well, we already know we don't really have no real vision, man. Because there's nothing that I'm looking at Giddy Jones and I'm being like, oh, you know what? Next year, Giddy's going to kick us all the way. Like, hell no. I'm good. But I'm not going to judge no other players on this team. All while we tanking, because that's what we're doing. We're not about to have it both ways. We know we tanking and I'm going to get out on these players. No, this is garbage time. This is what you call garbage time. So whatever happens here, great, whatever. But the only person I care about right now is Matas. And nobody's going to convince me nothing about this team moving up, this player moving up. They get a pass. Especially when we put Kevin Huerter and Billy is actually playing them in the real rotation numbers. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. Hey, I know you got to do what you got to do because you know this is your job. But other than that, Man, stop it. I'll see this team next year and see what happens because we already chose the tank when we traded that, kept Vooch and did all this goofball shit. I'm not about to be on an emotional roller coaster with these boys. I already see what it is. But, man, please, stop with the kitty shit, bro. Yeah, he could play. Let him play somewhere else. Denver, something like that. He should be coming off the bench with Denver, a good team like that. Him being our leading point guard, bye, bro.
All right, so let's point out the bias in your view here. You started off by saying you can't build an offense around Josh Giddey, and then the thing that you used that you immediately went to, he didn't want to stick Jalen Brunson. I thought you were talking about offense. If you don't think that you can build an offense around a player that's best attribute is creating open shots he is in the 90th percentile for his career generating open shots for teammates. Oh, and keep in mind this, the player with the best win-loss percentage on the Chicago Bulls roster right now, guess what? It's Josh Giddey, right? He's the player that has been part of a winning team. And again, I'm not saying he was the major part of that. He played with the MVP candidate. But that goes to show you that that's how moldable Josh Giddey is. If you can build a good enough team around, Josh Giddey can fit into that, period. So when you say things like, oh, well, this team is taking, that means we can't take it serious, but modest, though, that's stupid. And again, I talk frankly with my brother, 8 Lives. He's going to get on my ass sometimes, too, about shit that I'm faltering on. But this is just clear bias when it comes to Josh Giddey. You can't even say you can't even finish your own point by starting off saying, oh, you can't build an offense with him and then going to defense, right? You just can't do that. And if you say that you can't evaluate somebody because we're in a tank, but then say, but this is the only player that I can evaluate, you're shooting your own point in your foot. Everybody's on the same team. And if you watch this team play basketball and you think these players aren't out there competing hard, you're silly. And a matter of fact, I would go so much as to say it puts Giddey in even more of a highlight because we don't have Zach LaVine anymore. So defenses are able to float around even more than they were because we don't have somebody like Zach LaVine who's a consistent 20-point per game scorer, which means that defensively it makes it harder for everybody else to find their rhythm. You have a clear bias when it comes to Josh Giddey, bro. And I need you to remove that. I guarantee you if I gave you a blind set of stats, more times than not you would pick Josh Giddey. But because of how you view the player and the bias there, that you don't want him on your team, that you can't see that. And that's just a sad part about fandom sometimes that we all do. I do it. Everybody does it at times. But it's about recognizing that. And you are so far deep into this, I don't hear no Giddey shit, that you can't objectively look at quality basketball or a player that's playing well. That's a problem. Not for Giddey, but for you. But all right, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.